All right, good morning, everybody. Today I want to talk about lab safety. You will be in labs quite a bit in biology. I think some of you in junior high last year were able to have labs. I hope so. Labs are probably the coolest thing about science. But before we start labs, and even when you come back to the class, we're going to talk about being safe. That's the most important thing, is being safe in lab. And so we can't conduct labs until we make sure that we're following all the guidelines. So I want to go through a couple of really big things to know about lab, and then we will kind of talk through some rules and things like that. You will have a safety quiz on Monday. Some of it seems pretty self-explanatory. You've been doing lab safety probably since about fourth grade, I hope, and but you have to make 100 on your quiz in order to start doing labs when we come back. So that's going to be really important, and we can't do any of the labs until you have signed, or your parents have signed, the lab safety contracts that will come out on your parent access center. So that's going to be really important, and we'll talk more about that as you start to transition back into class. So again, quiz on Monday, and it's going to be really important that you get 100 on the quiz so that you can do labs in the class. So safety is super important. My classroom is a lab and a classroom. So I'm going to see if I can make this work. When you look at the back of my class, it's the lab, and the front of our classroom is our regular classroom for teaching. So that's going to be really important for you to know. The reason I say that is because horseplay in my classroom is going to be something that I'm pretty crazy about. Like I don't want things flying and things like that. So because it could knock over test tubes and beakers and things like that. So safety, be aware, be prepared. I'm going to move myself so I can navigate this screen. Safety is important in the science classroom. If we're not safe in the classroom, or if you choose that day that you're not going to be safe in the classroom, it's going to be really important that you understand that there are alternate assignments that you'll be given, and so it's really important to follow the safety guidelines. I'm going to go through the top 10 guidelines so that you can be as prepared as possible. Most of these you've heard before, I hope. So no eating or drinking in the classroom. Obviously, you can have water. I don't want you to not have water, but we're not going to eat or drink in the classroom. You'll have specimens in here, especially since it's biology, and it's going to be really important that we're not going from a specimen to contamination, such as gum. And if you have gum in the mouth and you've just handled a specimen, that's a big problem. So we want to make sure that we're not eating or drinking in the classroom. Secondly, no horseplay. So, bounding, jumping, lunging, all that kind of stuff in the classroom, running in the classroom can be really dangerous around glassware and chemicals that can spill. So that's going to be important. No horseplay in my classroom or in the lab. Goggles will be worn anytime we do glassware and chemicals or heat is used in the lab. You don't always need goggles. That's kind of a misconception. So these are the big times that you'll need goggles: when there's glassware, chemicals, or heat used in the lab. It's going to be really important that if you have a big jacket, or if you have like your hair down, if you're a girl or a guy with longer hair, that we put it back. You don't want to be leaning over and get your hair in chemicals. If you have loose jewelry, we'll talk about taking that off. You'll know when we have a lab day. So I'll say, hey man, tomorrow's lab. Please make sure you're not wearing your loosest hoodies and stuff like that. Or when we get to lab, just make sure you have a shirt underneath that you can take your hoodie off or your jacket off so that you can do the lab. Like I said, I'll tell you when we have a lab so that you can make sure you have the right clothing. One of the other things I'm going to ask when we're in lab is that you have closed-toed shoes. That means like no sandals or things that your toes are exposed. If we have beakers or glassware, it's going to be really important that you have closed-toed shoes so that you don't cut your feet, or chemical doesn't spill on your feet. Anytime you have clothing on, it's a natural barrier to chemicals or anything dangerous like that. You want to read all instructions prior to starting lab. I know we get really excited and we're ready to start playing with stuff. It's cool because it's, you get to touch all the cool stuff. But before we start, we're going to go through instructions with me, and then you're going to go through instructions with your lab team. You're going to make sure that you know what's happening before you do it. So that's going to be really important. You're not going to actually begin any experiments until I authorize you to do so, or I say we can begin now. You're not going to touch anything on the lab tables until we're ready to actually begin. That just promotes everyone's safety. So it's going to be really important that you wait to begin any labs until I tell you to do so, and you never begin labs if I'm not present. Hopefully that's kind of self-explanatory. After labs, this should be all the time, but you'll want to make sure to wash your hands with soap and water, not just hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer is great to keep us from viruses and kind of the day to day, but it's really important after a lab that you wash your hands with soap and water real thoroughly. Only because you will be dealing with specimens in here, you will be dealing with different chemicals, and so you want to make sure that you get all that off, especially before lunch or before you walk in the hallway and put something in your mouth, gum in your mouth or whatever it is you do. You want to make sure that you're not contaminating anything that you're touching. If you do get a spill on your skin, rinse it with water, and then come obviously tell me immediately, and we'll solve the situation. But after that, it may be something where we need to do a 15-minute rinse or things like that. And when you actually come to my classroom, I'll show you the safety features that we have in here so that you're not on your own. You're going to throw away, per my instruction, used materials. So you want to make sure that you're cleaning off your lab table after we've done every lab. You don't want to return used chemicals to the original container, just so that we don't contaminate what's in the original container. And then finally, all lab materials have to stay in the classroom. This isn't something where you'll take it with you. This isn't something that you're like, oh, this is cool. Only because of safety and other people are using it, but everything must stay in the classroom. So that would be important. You notify me immediately if anything happens. If there's an injury, a spill, or a break occurs, don't clean it up because you don't know what it is, and there's different procedures for different materials. So we want to make sure that we're following the proper safety guidelines when we're cleaning up spills. So if you spill something, if you're injured, or if something breaks, find me immediately. You'll know my personality probably by the time we get together, but I'm not gonna be mad if something happens by accident. Your safety is way more important to me. We can deal with what happened later, but immediately it's important for me to make sure that you're safe. So hopefully you'll know that I'm pretty approachable, and you can let me know. And I just want to make sure that you're safe and you're not putting yourself in danger if something happens. So don't try to hide anything. If you see a crack in glassware, even if it's a small crack or like a line that looks like a fissure or something, please let me know. I don't want you to use anything that could put you in danger. Number 10, always keep your body safe so you can protect others too. And this is something we're going to talk about a little bit this year. That goes for anything, with the mask and the social distancing. You want to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe, but that you're taking care of others too. So you want to make sure that you're following safety, not just for yourself, but you're acting out of kindness to make sure that others are safe too. We are a science lab, and there are things in this lab that are going to be dangerous this year, and we still want you to do the cool stuff. But sometimes that means that it's going to be dangerous. And so as long as we follow the safety guidelines, we're going to be just fine together. But it's going to be really important that we're following guidelines so that we can be safe while we're doing labs together. The next thing you're gonna notice on this sway are a list of a bunch of rules, and they're the Woodlands College Park safety rules. And so they're listed, and they're kind of lengthy, so I'm not going to go over all of them. There are general rules, and there's about 50 of them. I'm going to ask you to read through them to know them. They have a lot of different things in mind. Keep aisles clear, push your chair under your desk when not in use, um, work in a well-ventilated area. These are the guidelines set by the Woodlands College Park. So I'm just going to ask you to read these. They're also on a Word document or a PDF in our Canvas page, so use that if that's helpful. You have a quiz on Monday on the information, and like I said, it's going to be really important that you do well on the quiz. You can't do a lab in my class until you get 100 on the quiz, and so there's multiple attempts. You can continue doing it, but it's really important that safety is first when we come back, so that we can do all the labs and have a good time. So hopefully that makes sense. Please let me know if you have any questions. This goes on a couple different slides with just more rules. Please let me know if you have any questions at all. You've done lab safety for a while. I know that you're going to be safe, and so I trust that. I'm looking forward to doing labs with you. Labs are probably the coolest part of science, and so I can't wait to get together with you soon so that we can do labs together. I hope that you have a good afternoon, and like I said, if you have any questions at all, if you need anything from me, please email, and I'm more than happy to help. Thanks so much.